Good morning, everyone. This is Pastor John Nays from Bridgepoint Church in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This morning we've canceled our morning services. In fact, actually, I'm recording this on Saturday morning because I'm here. So tomorrow there will be no church at Bridgepoint Church. There are no live services. We've had a rough couple of weeks. Jenny and I have COVID-19, and so we've been taking it easy. In fact, been locked down in our house for the last 10, 11 days. And trying to get better, and to be honest with you, we're still not feeling very good, even though they tell us that the worst is over and that we're no longer able to communicate this disease or to give it to other people. So anyway, we're doing our best to try and continue to heal. Also, it's been a rough week for our staff, for all of our volunteers. Our Christmas Eve services are hard enough to run without me having to cancel my part in the last minute and lean on so many other people. Our music team is pretty much struggling. We're struggling with getting enough people to do what needs to be done week in and week out. And so I thought, you know what, let's just back up a week. Let's just take a week off, let the dust settle, let our congregation heal and get their feet back under them before we come back for live worship again. So this week, Sunday the 27th of December is canceled. And this is what you're getting instead. Just me in front of the Christmas decorations in the worship service, bringing you a message of hope. 2020 has been kind of a rough year for all of us, and it's been a rough year for churches too. It's been kind of difficult for us, but I want us to focus on what's gone well and how we have not only survived, but in some ways thrived during all of this. We have continued to give to our missions programs, and in fact, I took a trip to Botany Bay, Jamaica this past year and just had an amazing time of sharing the love of Christ with the people of Botany Bay, working with local pastors and pulling some things together for them and encouraging them as they continue to serve the Lord and to serve the people that God has called them to come along their side and to give them a little encouragement, to help them along the way was just the highlight of the year for us. So I'm so glad that so many of us got to go, and we plan on taking another trip this year. I have no idea how that's going to work. We'll wait and see. But when the doors open and the call of God is clear on our lives, we will go, and we will continue to do what God's called us to do, because that's the mission of the church. We are the church of the living God, not the COVID God. We are the church of the living God. We have a plan, we have a purpose, we have a direction that we need to continue on. There's been some setbacks in our lives and some setbacks in our year, but we've done some amazing things as well. I mean, for instance, even doing this, when we started this, we shut down for 3 months as a congregation and had to find ways to record and then live broadcast once we went back to church. We didn't have that capacity when we started, and we do now. And so I'm thankful to all the staff and the crew that make that happen, not just then, but continue to make that happen. I'm recording this on a Saturday morning. It will be broadcast tomorrow on Facebook and several other avenues that we use week in and week out. So the word is still getting out. In fact, we have people joining us every week that aren't members of our congregation that maybe we would have never reached had we not had to stop and say, how else can we do this? What is a different way that we can still preach the gospel and get the word out that the Christ who came at Christmas is still the Christ we serve today. And he's alive and well, and so is his church, and we have a job to do. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about Jesus coming and what that means to us. When he came at Christmas time, and we celebrated Christmas Eve here, lit the Christ candle, spread that single light throughout the congregation, and saw it light up the world. That light still shines in our world, no matter how dark we think it is or how bleak it may appear sometimes. Christ is still the light of the world. And he is still the Jesus who comes into our lives and makes a difference for us so that we can make a difference for others. One of the other things we did this past year was we totally retooled our pantry system so that we could deliver literally hundreds and hundreds of bags of groceries. especially during that first 3 months of lockdown when no one was going anywhere and some of the grocery stores hadn't caught up with how to do this yet. We took it upon ourselves to personally deliver food to people, and it was an amazing transformation and a great experience. And we're still doing it. We're still meeting not very many people anymore, but we're still meeting the need of people that are out there and in need. So if you need groceries delivered, you know who to call. Call us at Bridgepoint Church. We'd be glad to bring you some food. The other thing that's kind of a downer for me, it's been hard for me to walk down into our newly remodeled CE department, all the new rooms that we added, all the wonderful work that was done there, and see them virtually empty week after week after week. We have a few kids coming, and that's about it. I long for the days when those rooms are put to good use and full and overflowing, with children learning about Jesus Christ and causing them to want to have his saving power in their hearts and in their lives. So we still have work to do, and we know that God has a plan for that as well. Today I want to talk about God's plan. This is the last Sunday of 2020, and we are about to launch into 2021. Now, the amazing thing about the future is nobody knows anything about it. We have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It could snow tomorrow. It could be 25 degrees or 60. I don't know. The weathermen have their predictions, and sometimes they're right, but not always. We just don't know. We trust that we can adjust to whatever comes our way. And in the church, we have that same mindset, that same mentality, that God's called us for a purpose and a reason, and that he has a plan for us, and he'll make a way for us to fulfill that plan so that we can serve him to the best of his ability, not just ours. And I want to talk about the provision of Christ. When Jesus came as a baby and born in a manger, and we love that story. I mean, what's not to love? That God became man and dwelt among us, that Jesus came to this earth to seek and to save that which is lost, to bring redemption to those who needed it the most, to be the light in the darkness, because he saw humanity struggling in the darkness every day, trying to figure out which direction to go or how to get there with no light. So the light of the world came into the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we still are trying to fully comprehend how bright and how light it really is in the presence of Christ. Now, Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph, I think they had some struggles with this whole thing. Born in a manger, I mean, odd, right? Unbelievable, weird kind of story, actually, when you think about it. Why would God himself, first of all, become a man? First of all, why would the Creator become the created? Second of all, couldn't he have been born someplace better? Someplace warmer, someplace with, a little few amenities in it. Maybe a mini fridge in his hotel room, something, but no, he's born out in a barn. Why would God come to us that way? I think to show us just how much he can relate to us. That even though we think we don't have enough, or it's never going to be enough, or tomorrow is not certain for us, and we worry and we stress and we doubt, God showed us that even he could face those struggles and trust in his Father. And Jesus was trusting in his Father. He came as a baby, indicating he had really no way to take care of himself. He was trusting his Father, and his Father was putting that trust in the hands of Mary and Joseph, Jesus' parents. And they were looking for help and hope along the way, and wondering, probably, I'm sure they're wondering, what do we do? How do we do this? How do we parent the Son of God? Can you imagine that struggle? And yet as a church, we face some of those same questions. God is giving us this amazing responsibility, this amazing calling on our lives to preach the gospel, to bring Jesus to the dark corners of the earth, to bring light where there isn't any, and hope where people have lost all hope, and joy where there seems to not be any. It's a great responsibility. It's a high calling. And I fear that sometimes we fall so short because we forget that he will provide through it all. To illustrate this, let me tell you the next part of Jesus' life. The next time we see Christ is when the Magi come to visit him at his house, where his mother and he are staying, where Joseph is staying with them. And the Magi come and visit. And Jesus is 2 years old. He's a young boy. And the Magi bring, and we all know the story, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but do we understand why? They brought him the provisions that he would need for the next phase of his life. The next phase of his life would be on the run. He had to flee their home. They had to uproot. They had to get out of town because Herod wanted him dead. So they took him to Nazareth where they could hide him. And God made a way for that to happen. God provided everything that he would need, everything that his parents would need, in the form of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, a great provision, by the way. And they made their way to Nazareth, and Jesus became known as Jesus of Nazareth because he had to run for his life. But God knew what was going to happen, and God knew the years that were ahead for him and planned and made a way for him to be safe. We face uncertain tomorrows and we wonder, what are we going to do? What will happen through this whole 2021? What will happen with this COVID thing? What's the next phase? It doesn't seem like anything's really working very well. I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of hope in the people of this world to have a plan for this. And I don't know what the church is going to do because I really don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. But I do know one thing, that this is his church, not mine. It's his church, not ours. And he's called us for such a time as this to stand and be the church. That the same Christ who came as a baby in a manger, the same Christ who went to answer the door when the Magi came, to see how God provided for him, will make a way for us as well. That this gospel is just too important to be set aside. That this message of the Christ is the message that the people of our day desperately need to hear. That in a time of uncertainty, in a time of struggle, in a time when we don't know what tomorrow holds, we know that he is still in charge. And that when the day comes, when we need the strength that only he can give, we can find it. When the day comes when we need a provision that we know only he can provide because we've never been there before. We've never faced that struggle before. We've never had that challenge before. We've never had to fully rely on him the way we might tomorrow. We know that he will provide. Like he provided for Jesus to leave and go to Nazareth, he will provide for us. Like he provides the wisdom that Jesus needed as a 12-year-old boy to confound the Pharisees and the Sadducees in the temple, leaving even his parents to wonder, what's going on here? This is crazy, because it is. It is. But that's the Jesus we know, and that's the Jesus we serve, and that's the life that we've been called to answer. So even though we don't know what tomorrow holds and we're not certain of what tomorrow might bring, we do know this. We know who holds tomorrow. And we know that when we come up against something that we have no answers for, there is an answer and God will provide. We know that when the need is greater than what we have to offer, when we don't have the provision ourselves, that we can look to the hand of the Father and he will give us what we need. That when we need to rest and trust wholly in him, he will be there to give us exactly what's needed at the time. So on this last Sunday of 2020, and we look forward to 2021, let's not get ahead of the game. Let's not get ahead of the game. Let's know what Christ has called us to, who he's called us to be. Let's never forget the message he's given us to preach and to teach. Let's never forget whose hand we're really holding on to. Let's never forget where we're really going. This is not our home. We're headed to someplace better. And until that day he takes us away, and that day may be very soon, but until that day, this gospel of Jesus Christ must be preached around the world, Jerusalem and Judea, and to the uttermost parts of the earth. It's our calling. It's our high calling. And with his help, we will deliver, because we're the church of the living God. We're sons and daughters of the Most High. We have a Father who will always provide. So don't get ahead of the game. Know that just like Jesus' parents, they just had to trust his Father. And his Father made a way. And he'll make a way for us too. God bless you. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you soon, and we'll all feel better and be back in the game, doing what Christ has called us to do, being the church of the living God. I love you all. Take care.